All right, Stephen Sadler, reading to you from my book, Money and Power, The Secret History. And I used to work in oil, by the way. I went to graduate school to study international banking at the University of Wales, and I wrote my dissertation on project financing, which was primarily things like offshore oil drilling. I worked as an economist for the East-West Center, later made loans through Lloyd's Bank to other countries, and a lot of it, again, was for offshore development of petroleum. One of the things most people don't realize is how big this industry is. According to the Fortune 500, Fortune magazine's 500 of global companies of the world, 5 of the top 10 companies of the world are oil companies. Half. Each of these 5 companies, so that's ExxonMobil, Royal Dutch Shell, British Petroleum, Chevron, and ConocoPhillips. Those are the biggest. Each receives more in annual revenues than over 90% of the countries of this world. That's how big they are. Once this Rockefeller-owned ExxonMobil, Chevron, ConocoPhillips monopoly was established during the Bush administration. So in other words, they overturned the biggest piece of antitrust legislation ever created. They just overturned it without a discussion in the media or with the population. They just did it. And all of a sudden, ExxonMobil, Chevron, ConocoPhillips was able to start recording record profits. They just gouged us. That's exactly when oil prices in the middle of our recession just started to skyrocket. It's also when their profits started to skyrocket. So through the media, they were blaming that India and China were putting great demand, and that's true, they did. They put demand on crude prices. But there was another big margin of gouging that was pure profit on the part of the oil companies that didn't get into the news, because the media is controlled by the same corporations. You see, when you look at who owns who, if you keep backing it up, you're going to see the same names all the way to the top. So in 2007, Chevron posted a record profit for the 4th straight year in a row, earning over $18.7 billion. ExxonMobil, the world's largest oil company, made a world record by posting $40.6 billion, and that was in 2007. ExxonMobil's revenues of $404 billion exceed the gross domestic product of over 120 countries around the world. So my point in bringing this up is I don't think most people realize, number one, how big and powerful the oil companies are, and they're dominated ultimately by a handful of families. There's trusts, and now what we might think of as a monopoly, it's more of an oligopoly, but essentially the control of the world's resources are in a handful of people now. And that's why everything costs so much.